Welcome everybody to the January 8th, 2026 Public Works Committee meeting. Could we have a roll call?
Here.
Alderwoman Goad.
Here.
Chairman Lockmuller.
Here.
Sullivan Erger is not present. That's everyone.
Have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
All right. Move on to approval of the agenda. Anybody mind if we do it by acclamation? Okay, so it shall be done. Move on to citizen comment. Anybody in the audience or online?
No one online.
Okay, then we will go ahead and close citizen comment and move into reports of committee chair and alderman. I have just something real quick here. I think if you both remember at the last Board of Aldermen meeting, we had some residents come up and talk about the Lustron homes that we have along Litzinger, excuse me. And I'd kind of like to entertain looking into this idea of somehow at least acknowledging the existence of those homes in Brentwood right there. And so I've got a couple of pictures in your packet there that has the location and then some possible monuments. But what I'd like to do is maybe kind of take this on as far as meeting with the individuals that were at that meeting and kind of getting a little bit more input from them. And I mean, I've got some ideas on my own that maybe we can put some type of a monument. As you see that one monument that's pictured there, something with a QR code on it that then would reference things that on the city website have its own page and can list all the history that Peter, who spoke that night, has a vast trove of information on it. So I guess all I'm trying to do here is just get some type of feedback from you two on possibly just sitting down with the three that came in and discussing what the possibilities are.
So I think that's a great idea. I don't know if we want to include anyone from the Historical Society to be involved. And I noticed in the paper sometime, maybe in the last week, that Clayton is doing some plaques that are sort of shared with the Historical Society and the city. So I don't know if that's something that they would even be interested in. I know that they were instrumental in putting the plaque down at Evans Howard. So yeah, so that would be my only suggestion. But if you're looking for help, I'd love to join. Or if you just want to take it on, then that's great too. So
well, I'd definitely come back and report to everybody on how they're progressing. I think this is going to be pretty much citizen-driven. The cost can be minimal, and it sounds like they're open to covering that cost. And the only time staff would get involved would be probably working with maybe Alderman Goad as far as the communications committee and doing some work there as far as getting the website, with a web page on the website and the link to the QR code and maybe right-of-ways and placements of the whatever monument they would like to see done. But otherwise, I think this would be a low-cost mission and something the citizens can kind of spearhead. So
I love the idea of celebrating who we are, so let's celebrate cool things about Brentwood.
there you go. All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to Alderwoman Tice.
no report.
Alderwoman Goad.
No report?
All right, moving on to a presentation. We have a representative from Greenway, Gateway Greenway, or
Great Rivers.
Great Rivers Greenway. And I believe you have a presentation for us.
So thank you for allowing us to come and speak today. My name is Mara Perry, and I am a senior project manager for planning at Great Rivers Greenway. We are currently working on a project, and this project is including working with the communities of Webster Groves, Brentwood, Rock Hill, and Ladue. And so what we wanted to do is do a very quick presentation about us and an overview of the planning process that we're starting. So this is a couple images of our project team. Marla McDonald and myself with Great Rivers Greenway. We have hired as our consultant team SWT Design. working also with Horner and Schifrin, who do engineering, and then Creative Entourage, which is our community engagement firm. I always like to start with just a little bit about Great Rivers Greenway. After 25 years, which is our 25th anniversary, we have built 140 miles of greenway in the region. We get approximately 3 million visits a year, and we do have counters that help keep track of those visits. We have over 250 partners, which includes everything from other cities, communities, the county, MoDOT, and other utility companies. We always talk a little bit about what is a greenway. A greenway is a shared use trail, but it can also include amenities, it can include conservation projects, and it can also include other connections to important things within the community, like schools, like City Hall, and libraries. So it's very important to us to reflect what's important to your community as we start looking and thinking about making that planning happen. I know you know some of these images very, very well. Obviously, we've been using the examples of Brentwood Park and the collaboration that we did with Brentwood Park as we're talking with each of these communities and using these examples to show some of the things that have been accomplished and what we're trying to connect to. And then we're also working Webster Groves, their part in this entire project and process. That's a little bit lesser because we aren't really trying to build anything. We're just trying to connect to some of their existing parks like Lorraine Davis Park. And they have another project that they're currently working on further in Webster Groves that will make a connection into this. So as we continue to work on this, we're looking at different ways that we can accomplish creating some sort of greenway system that would make connections, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about where we're trying to connect, but most importantly, we're talking a little bit about where we are in the planning process because we're very, very early in the planning process. We're at the point of what we consider our schematic design, which means that our consultant team is analyzing, getting background data, getting floodplain data, trying to understand information about projects and things that are going on in each of the communities in order for them to prepare themselves to talk with the community. In this schematic design phase, we'll have some analysis, we'll do some planning, they'll start looking at potential alignments and alternates, multiple alternates in each of these communities with a few key destinations that we want to get to, with the idea that we would end in a design. That design would then need to move forward in all these other phases like getting site control, permitting, and going through all these other parts of the process. So in this early part of the process, what we've been trying to do, we've held a number of informational meetings with various residents in some of the communities. We will be holding focus group meetings and we're doing these processes separately. Brentwood has its own, Ladue has its own, and Rock Hill is going to have its own. So we're going to have separate focus groups for each of them. We're also going to have separate open houses. We've already started scheduling all of those and started making contact with the various people that we want to meet with. We're going to go back in March after we've had an open house and kind of get back with various stakeholders, start talking through what we have learned, and try to have another open house in May as we get a little bit closer to having ideas about what these alternates can mean and whether these alignments are feasible. It will end in some sort of a report, and each of the communities will have to decide whether they want us to keep moving forward. In some communities, it might be that we don't have an alignment that's going to work, and we might have to wait a little while. There might be residents that don't want something going through a particular area. And so we always say to people, this isn't decided, this is the early planning. The Greenway study area is a wide study area that's supposed to connect to Lorraine Davis Park and Brentwood Park and make its way and hit a few key things before it eventually gets all the way to Ladue Horton Watkins High School. So we kind of have been looking at this here. You can see all in red are the existing greenways that we've already built and the various parks that they connect. The blue line is the creek itself. Early on in Great Rivers Greenway's ideas 25 years ago, a lot of it was about staying really close to those waterways. We've started learning that in many cases it doesn't necessarily make the most sense to be right next to those waterways with flooding and other things that are happening, but we still want to think about that importance and places where we can interact with the water. In this case, we're trying to hit at some point getting to Tillis Park as part of St. Louis County's plan for how they want us connecting with their park system, as well as getting to Deer Creek Preserve in Ladue, and then off to the high school. So these are things that we are trying to do and move forward with as we get through this process. Where we are now in terms of next steps, we're convening the focus groups at the end of January. We have a few key dates for those. A couple of them are probably going to be on February 2nd. We're holding our first open house here in Brentwood on February 17th. We will get additional information out very, very soon. We just finalized the dates as we were trying to get all of the open houses on different nights in each of the communities and try not to overlap them. We will have additional meetings with stakeholders in March, in particular, like if there are very specific property owners that we need to talk with or people that we need to interact with. We hope to hold the other open house in May of 2026 and have a planning report in June. So I'm available for any questions. It has Marla's contact information at the end. She was sad to have missed being able to come by tonight. She's homesick. But both Marla and myself are available for any questions or to connect anyone. If you know of anyone who wants to be a part of, whether it's a focus group or something else, I know that we've already gotten some great names and information, both from some early meetings as well as meeting with the city.
Sounds good. I'm excited to see what comes next.
Right?
Do you have, I mean, how set are you in that connection? I got to go back to the right. I guess the Deer Creek Greenway, that study, how is that pretty well set, or for that connection up to the high school in Ladue?
Yeah, so what we did is we, when we fund a project, which this was a project that we funded with our 2025 budget, when we fund a project, we fund it for the full planning process. Then, if we are able to move forward, we then reallocate funds in any new budget year for any other steps moving forward. So we do have the entire planning process completely funded with GRG funds.
And then, I noticed there along 170, into Clayton, that pathway stops right there. Anything in the future for that?
Yeah, so we have a number of different things that we're working on right now. We just started a planning process in University City that's going to be making some connections on the northern end. So if you've got the park in Clayton, Shaw Park, and it goes up north, we've got a planning process that we're working on up in that area through there. We're doing a number of things along Centennial Greenway, which is the one that goes through U City. It actually starts in Forest Park and will eventually get to St. Charles County, going through Creve Coeur Park. We're working on a few of those first. We don't have anything specific that's making the connection going back down into Brentwood, but I know we've heard as we've talked to people about wanting to make another connection. What we've really found is, we've done 140 miles. We have like a background overall strategic map of where we think we want to go in the future. And many times we have projects where we're finding now the harder projects, the ones that are more difficult, those are the ones that we're working on right now. So we did, in the 2025 budget year, we took on 10 new projects because they took on a number of new staff. I was one of the new staff that they hired. With those 10 new projects, that really got us going with a lot of new things that we're working on, and those are all continuing through, the next 3 or 4 years. But we did, for the 2026 budget year, add 3 more new projects. So as each one goes, we kind of look at metrics regarding how it could help with health metrics, how it helps economically, where we connecting with larger groups of development, and what the impacts are going to be. We use all of that and some of those numbers to help us determine where to go next. So hopefully there might be another one where we can make that connection to go further north. But for now, we're trying to get a little bit into and reach out to some of the communities that we haven't been able to reach yet.
Well, I know, I know you're familiar with the infrastructure we've got to the, from our park onward, and I think you've got a pretty receptive group here that would be interested in anything that, and we're willing to work with GRG on expanding towards that direction. So
Yeah.
keep us in mind.
Yeah, and when you see the open house, you'll see that there's a number of thoughts of where this connection can go, potentially north in order to get west. So you'll see all of those as they bring them at the public meeting.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
No, I just want to say this is, as a biker, this is so exciting to have it come closer to home because I'm too chicken to bike on streets, and I love the greenways, so it's really exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, we're very excited too.
Thanks for coming in, Mara.
Yes, thank you. And enjoy the rest of your meeting tonight.
Okay, we'll move into item number 6, which are department and commission reports. I'll start with Parks and Recreation. Eric?
Yeah, so I just have a couple things. The first is that we were notified on Monday that the Heights had implemented a membership rate increase. And so obviously we're a little concerned about what that meant to our budget. And then I kind of put the table on the back that shows what the 2025 rates were compared with the 2026 and what the increase would be to Brentwood. And what we found was that, as you remember, we pay 2/3 the difference between a resident and a non-resident. So the monthly rates changed incrementally the same for residents and non-residents. It went up $2 a month for each. So that did not change did not increase our responsibility for those. The only ones that did were our annual memberships, and they only went up incrementally a little bit. So about $3, $2, and $2 for each of the membership types. So not incredibly too much. And when you look at, we're really about 70% annual, 70% monthly passes. So those are the ones that won't increase. So we feel like this won't be an issue at all. So we feel like we'll be able to contain it within our budget. The second is Dan and I are looking at trying to start the new year with our projects. And one of the things in the 2026 budget was the RFQ for the design for the new Public Works Park Maintenance Garage. And so we had just budgeted $250,000, 125 both in Fund 40 and 125 in Fund 50. And we just want to make sure that it's okay that we go out for the RFQ. And once we get those results, we'll bring it back to the Public Works Committee.
It sounds like you need a motion to do so.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to recommend staff go advertise for an RFQ to solicit professional design services for the new Public Works and Park Maintenance facility.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, Eric.
Great.
Anything else under Parks?
No.
Move on to Sustainability Commission.
So the Sustainability Commission, we just kind of put in a little blurb about the Green Business Challenge. And so in December, a number of the Sustainability Commission members attended the St. Louis Green Business Challenge Award Luncheon. Really, the luncheon is there to recognize everyone who participates in the challenge. And so obviously the city was recognized for what we did for the year. And the summary of what we had put into the green or into that pamphlet was attached as a PDF.
Okay. And then could you, for the newbies on the, including me, on the committee, what the Green Business Challenge is?
Yeah, the Green Business Challenge is, the program started by Missouri Botanical Garden, and the idea is to kind of get businesses, it started with businesses, and get businesses to be more green and more sustainable and see what they could do to make St. Louis greener and more sustainable. And as they started that, they then included municipalities. So we're about one of 20 municipalities that participate in this. Places like Clayton, Richmond Heights, all kind of participate. And the idea is just to kind of work to being more sustainable. And so, you know, you basically work with the challenge. Or they do a lot of events throughout the year, which Michelle and I will attend when we can. And then the big thing is really making sure we touch base with them about what we did. So we talked to them about the fact that we purchased our EV police vehicle. We hosted the National Bike to Work Day. Those type of things, Sustainable September. You know, those type of things that we kind of indicated as some of our accomplishments. And they also include a quote. So the mayor put a nice quote in there for us.
I'll just, if I could add something, I went to the luncheon and it was actually pretty inspiring to hear, they do a little presentation on every municipality and every business, so you're there a little bit, but it was actually really inspiring hearing what's going on all over the community and how our little things like Sustainable September and our buying an EV for the police department really adds with what everyone else, lots of other people are doing in our community, and it just made, I don't know, made me feel good that our little bit helps.
I just had one question. How's the Ripple Glass collector doing?
You know, I need to reach out to Ripple Glass because it's emptied. So they emptied it.
It was almost full right before
yeah.
Christmas, so yeah.
So yeah, they got emptied, and I haven't gotten the report of how much poundage it was. So I need to reach out to my contact because I noticed it the other Monday, Tuesday. We're out. Dan and I were out there, and I took a peek. It was like, oh, it's empty. So I'm excited. We'll have that in the next sustainable. We'll have an update next month for you guys.
All right, sounds good. All right, moving on to another department. We've got the Planning and Development Department. Whitney, got an update or report for us?
So for the December monthly building reports, there were 119 new projects and 785 inspections. For the year of 2025, there were 2,191 permits and 10,417 inspections. Code enforcement for December had 14 new cases and 50 inspections. For the entire year, there were 369 cases, which include some that were carried over from 2024, and 481 inspections. For just 2025, there were 281 new cases for code enforcement. We are in the process of business license renewal that started December 15th for exempt and exception and flat fee businesses. Gross receipts had to wait till at least January 1st to capture all of 2025. As of Monday, there were 10 new business license applications, 67 are reviewed and awaiting approved payment, and 195 business licenses were issued. Next week is Planning and Zoning Commission. We have the continuation of the commercial design guidelines discussion, a new site plan review for a new building at 350 Hanley Industrial Court, a text amendment to require that buildings within the floodplain are 2 feet above base flood elevation. Currently, our code requires 1 foot, but FEMA and SEMA have asked, so the majority communities are going to 2 feet, and so they're recommending that we do so too. We also just do it based upon the current value of the property. For any project, if it's more than 50%, you have to take measures to bring it out of the floodway. They've asked that we do that cumulatively for a period of 10 years. So that gets away from someone going, well, I'll do, say if you have a $500,000 project that's 50%, well, I'll do 240 now and wait next year and do another 20, and so I can avoid doing the floodplain. Most cities do cumulative, so we are looking to do cumulative as well. We're also looking at a text amendment to, since we have adopted the residential design guidelines, that staff would have the authority to approve those as long as it's not visible from the public right-of-way and it's small in the back and it's consistent with the design guidelines. So if it's sunroom or, changing out windows or things like that, then staff can approve that, is what we're looking for. The normally scheduled January 15th Architectural Review Board has been postponed or rescheduled for January 27th due to a lack of quorum. And then we have 2 projects for the Board of Adjustment on January 22nd.
Thank you for your updates from your team. I know that seems to that. So.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. All right, Dan, move on to Public Works Department.
Have various department updates for different projects. So jumping in with McKnight Road, we did get an update from TAPCO. So the last of the components will be the push buttons on the posts for both our side and Ladue side. Those won't arrive until February 12th. They gave me an option of doing a different brand, but I'd rather just stick with what we've used, like over at Memorial Park. So we'll just wait. Excuse me. 288 Hanley Industrial Court, the fire suppression system work that was done on the sprinkler system, it's all done. Everything checks out, so we shouldn't have to do anything else with that. The roofer might be out next week if the weather cooperates to do that little bit of roof work over the office and loading dock, and then we'll be done with that part of that project. 2832 and 2828 Manderley, one of the access agreements I know was signed by the resident. We're waiting on the other one. I was supposed to have a meeting today with the contractor. He had to postpone until next week since he was sick. But the goal was to get a block color and texture picked out so that both residents agree that that's what we're going to do before we bring a big pallet of those out there, which kind of segues into another retaining wall. It's not on here, but 8829 Russell. That's at Russell and Collier. We were going to put a concrete wall in last year. We did not. The resident wants block, so I'm going to have the same contractor quote block. If it's the same cost or less, then obviously I would go with block instead of the concrete. Worst case, we'll just go with concrete, but I'm going to try to accommodate them and do the block.
Thank you.
Manchester Road, there's several lights out that are on the north side. That's basically between Dorothy and St. Mary Magdalene's parking lot. Those 6, they're required to have a new electrical control cabinet. So the cabinet that you see with the tape around it on the north side, that's going to get replaced, and then there's different components that get filled in there that'll energize those lights again. Unbeknownst to us, there's actually 2 lights on the south side that are out now too. I don't know why they are, but one's at the tunnel. It's not down in the tunnel. It's one of those decorative lights that's just like the ones on the north side, and then there's one next to the temporary parking lot. So whenever he's out there doing the cabinet work, we're going to have him figure out why those aren't working either. And then lastly, I know there's 4 lights close to what used to be the Circle K. That one, he said that he's toned it and there's a break in the line. So the easiest thing is just to rebore a new line that will feed those 4 lights. And then we'll get those fixed. The goal would be to get everything done sometime in January. You know, there's different parts that are coming in, but hopefully we get everything done in the next few weeks.
So can I ask a question about the lights? So these lights seem to have a lot of problems over
Yes.
them. Is that, do you have any idea if, like, once we kind of get over this first few year hump, that they'll be better? Or do we anticipate that
Well-
these lights are just going to have a lot of problems because of how they're designed?
Yeah, the problems so far, like, most of the problems have been people hitting them. The cabinet was hit by a vehicle. The one over by the self-storage was hit by a vehicle. There's another one that's not even on this list that's an insurance claim now. It's over in Rock Hill, or not Rock Hill, but closer to Rock Hill. It's really close to Bremerton where somebody struck that one. So if people can stay on the road instead of hitting the street lights. The one at Circle K, I don't know how, if somebody did a bore or just did digging without calling locates. That one, he said they nipped through the conduit. But all the other ones, it's kind of like that Strassner berm. It's like if people can just stay on the road. I know that the one with the cabinet happened during the winter of last year. I don't know if someone slid off the road or what happened, but no one stayed around to let us know. Because it is costing us, thousands of dollars. If it were Ameren, I know they would fix it, but they charge more per month than these run. So hopefully we can take care of these.
Thank you.
Sure. The Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement, I just put that on there just to let everyone know, which you already do know. That was at the board meeting on the 5th. So last step is just to take the executed agreement and send it to Chesterfield, which we'll do long before the February 6th deadline. Litzinger Road Bridge, there's a decorative fence panel that's on that south side of the bridge. A motorcyclist left the road, went through that fence. So that's why you see it in its state now. But the panels were ordered in December, and the contractor notified us. He said he's going to get the work done by the 16th of January, which is next week, Friday. So once that's done, hopefully no more issues there. And we will turn in the bills to the insurance company, so we'll at least get reimbursed on that. Sidewalk cutting, that's been going well. Precision Concrete Cutting has completed the North Swan Circle Swallow area. They're over on Brentwood. I believe that's done. There's probably just a little bit left, and then they'll notify us when they're done. So that went well. And then once that's done, it's a 3-year warranty, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. If we do, then we notify them and they'll fix it. And then lastly, Hampton Creek sanitary relief. I put that on there because it's a large-scale project in the sense that it takes about 2 years to complete. It's kind of in an isolated area, so it's north of Manchester, west of Hanley. It's right next to Flooring Galaxy. So what MSD will have done there is 2 large junction chambers on either side of Black Creek, and then there's 3 48-inch pipes that go underneath the creek. So they'll have to dam it somehow, pump around it, excavate, put their pipes through there. One of the nice things about this project is it will remove those 2 former railroad piers that are in the creek. If you recall, years ago, we looked at having Castle or someone remove those, and it was expensive. So I'm glad we didn't do it because now someone else is on top of it. So they'll remove that as part of the project. They'll go out for bids in February. We'll figure out who their contractor is probably shortly thereafter, but I'll work with communications manager and we'll figure out like how that impacts residents. I don't think it will affect residents much except in way of maybe noise, since they have to remove those piers and do some concrete work.
Yeah, 2 questions, starting with the Deer Creek question. So is there any concern about flooding over Rosalie when they're doing the damming work?
I don't believe so
Flooding over the
because they're
bridge?
going to be bypass piping it as well. So basically whatever the flow is, they'll just like pump over an area that they're working.
Okay, and it's gonna.
I know they don't
I
tell
feel
them
like
they're-
every 2 years there's a storm that hits,
Yeah.
and the creek overruns the banks, and it usually gets right up to people's
Right.
the sidewalk, but not in their homes. So I just want to make sure those neighbors don't have a nice little flood surprise for
Yeah,
in
we'll
a high
want to
rain
meet
year.
with the contractor and figure out, I know I asked the designer and he said they don't dictate the means and methods, they just design it and then let the contractor decide how to build it.
Okay.
But that doesn't really tell me what they're going to do other than.
Right, because they could, average. My concern would be that it's a 2-year project, so they design for an average flow. This is on the higher end, but
Right.
it seems to flood about every 2 to 3 years over the creek bed. So if they design for average flow, all of a sudden, large rain could cause a much bigger problem for some of the homes and businesses right there.
Right. The only thing I thought maybe they would do is like what we did when we did the slope repair by the bridge was build that muscle wall. It's basically a portable dam. And then that stayed in place, but that was only for a few weeks, not years. And this probably won't be years either. It's just enough to get the pipe up and over the other side.
Oh, okay.
So I would think they'll just basically move the dam rather than try to choke the whole thing and flow over the top.
Okay.
I think they had what they were using buried in those drawings somewhere, that movable dam that you're talking about. that
Right.
They can divert the water away, but still keep it flowing.
Yes.
It's not really dammed up back down.
Yeah, the whole thing won't be dammed.
Yeah. It's just a construction area. They're able to keep
Right.
the water out.
Okay.
And they'll run pumps, but I don't know if they'll need pumps all the time or just while they're working and they'll remove the pumps. That's it.
All right. Any other questions for Dan? All right, Dan,
All right,
thank you. We'll
thanks.
see you later on, I think. Got a new department here, communications. Michelle, what do you got for us?
I'm here. I just wanted to give a couple of updates.
Oh, why not? What's on your mind?
One of the things that has been discussed at, I believe it was a past board meeting, was just the information regarding city trees versus privately owned trees, the responsibility of removing those, or who has the ability to remove those according to our city ordinances. So I've been working with Parks and Planning and Development to kind of work on a communications campaign to kind of inform not only residents but also contractors and anyone who may, work in the tree space within the city. So we're kind of working towards rolling out that marketing campaign, educational campaign, if you will, about the trees within the city. We have an existing really interactive and great tool on our website. It's a tree inventory tool, and it's on the parks website. And that is a really robust database that makes it really easy for anybody to locate a tree and determine who owns it. Is it city owned? Is it private? So we're definitely going to be promoting that tool, as well as just offering other education pieces regarding trees within the city, responsibilities regarding those trees and things like that. So that's just an informational piece. Look for that information to be rolling out here soon. And then the other topic that I just wanted to touch on was the sanitation schedule changes and kind of our communication practices regarding those changes. We received feedback from residents and elected officials based on the communication surrounding the sanitation schedule change for New Year's Day. And we're taking that feedback and putting some changes into place as we move forward for the rest of the 2026 calendar year. We've got another holiday coming up with Martin Luther King, so the schedule will be adjusted. And so I'm working really closely with planning, with Public Works, Dan and I, to kind of figure out how we can best and most effectively communicate those changes in terms of timing of that notification, method of notification. So we're going to be trying a couple of different things, whether that be videos, whether that be utilizing Code Red for informing residents via text in case they're not on social media or they're not necessarily getting the weekly newsletter via email. So we're looking at all of our additional options that there could be to make sure that this information is disseminated effectively. So with the upcoming holiday, look for communications regarding those changes starting, well, they started. They went out in the last e-newsletter. Dan will be making his video debut tomorrow. I will be filming a video of him talking about that. So, well, yeah, we're looking at other opportunities to kind of ramp up our communications regarding those changes.
Questions for Michelle?
I'll add something that I already told you, but I'll just say it publicly. I do think it would be useful to put this in the quarterly newsletter, even though we've already had a couple of trash situations. But if it's in that and it's explained why it's happening, you can probably go into a little bit more depth there.
Absolutely.
And I do think that, I mean, we know that reaches every household as opposed to other communication methods. But I sense that people really read that, and even like I leave that for my grown children, and they'll stand there and like it's sitting out and they read that because it's very so. Just as a suggestion of reaching people.
That's definitely on the list.
Good. Thank you, Michelle. Move on to the consent agenda. Once again, can we just prove that by acclamation? It's just the minutes.
I have one comment on the minutes.
All right, go ahead.
So the minutes are accurate as the meeting happened. So, and I had to rewatch a portion of it because there was some back and forth with the neighbors concerned. There is a neighbor who will object on page 5, paragraph 2 to the, page 5, paragraph 1, sentence 1. They will not like the word decline, although that decline was how it was presented. So it is accurate, but there's a neighbor that might try to dispute that impression of what they would like to do.
Well, are you wanting to make it?
But it's accurate. I just wanted to add that. But it's accurate as the minutes accurately capture everything that was presented.
Okay.
So
the minutes are fine.
the minutes are fine. And just there's
The meeting, how it was expressed in the meeting was.
yes, and the neighbor has sent me a couple of emails objecting to the word. Not the word decline, but the idea of declined.
Okay.
So, but the meeting minutes accurately reflect what happened in the meeting. So
Do approve them
Yes.
by
Well,
acclamation,
we
or would you like to do a roll call?
let's go ahead and do a roll call. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll do it. Go ahead.
Could I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, but add a reference in the meeting minutes for this meeting that you brought up discussion of this particular point in last month's minutes, and that you think there might be concern from the neighbor about the wording?
Yes. Perfect. That sounds fantastic. I'll second that. Okay. That's wonderful.
So when you're ready, could we have a roll call?
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Goad.
Yes.
Chairman Lockmuller.
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Great. Move on to old business. We've got one item, and it's the temporary parking lots. Dan, I think you're handling this.
This item was brought up at one of our past board meetings, since we've got the 2 temporary parking lots on either side of Manchester Road, closer to the tunnel. At the meeting, we did a 90-day extension. That particular permit will expire on January 26th. So I'll be bringing this to the next board meeting with, if you all approve of what we're considering. So some of the things we looked at, I went out there with the project manager. We shot elevations between the 2 inlets. So on the east side of the property, there's an inlet at the north end, there's an inlet at the south end. So the best we can tell from shooting elevations is that the pipe at the north end is at a higher elevation. It takes everything towards Manchester Road. Based on the topography, we believe that you can do some grading there, meaning Public Works, and we could create some sort of V-shaped ditch. Whenever we did the calculations, I'm looking at a ditch that would probably be in the neighborhood of either 3 to 8 feet, 6 to 8 feet, because it's 3 to 4 feet from the center line of the ditch on either side. So basically you have either a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 slope, so it's fairly flat. The ditch itself would be about 12 inches deep. And then I was going to go with grass lining it, so just have clean dirt, grass seed, so that any runoff that comes off the lot should go into that V. So that's the picture that's in your packet. And then we're going to have to shift the parking stalls in those blocks further, what would it be, west, so that it'll move the stalls over, but we won't really lose but maybe 1 stall. And we'll still keep an aisle between the stalls at 23 feet, which meets the code. So we would want to do that, ideally here, first time the weather breaks. Right now it's weird since it feels like it's spring, but I don't want to get too far over my skis because I could get in trouble if I start digging and then it gets snow or something. The other thing we looked at was dust suppression or dust mitigation measures. So there's 2 different products. I put those on the back of the memo. One's a granule. You can use like a broadcast spreader like you would fertilizer. And then after you spread it, then you wet it. The other one is a gallon jug that you dilute 5-to-1, and then you just spray it. And then you don't need to activate it because once it mixes with water, it's activated. We're going to try some areas on our rock lot on Public Works and see how well it works. And if you need to reapply it every so many weeks, months, whatever that is. So I thought, well, once we gain some insight on that, we can use that during the summer months whenever the dust is blowing around on that north lot. That should keep it suppressed. Both products bind with any of the fine particles, so I think that should work well. And again, the ditch, I think that should work. I did the engineering calculations, and it looks like it'll handle like 1.8 cubic feet per second, which doesn't mean a whole lot unless you're an engineer, but to me, it means that I can handle the flow that goes through there without eroding the grass. Once you get, flow rates that are, say, 5 or 6 cubic feet per second, then I would put rock down. If I do observe that there's areas that erode, then of course I would get with Parks and see if they're okay. We would put a liner in there and rock. So that's pretty much it.
Dan, on the chemical or the glue you're talking about using for dust control, is that biodegradable?
Yeah, both of them said that they're safe for pets, safe for the environment. They've got, of course, proprietary information they won't share, but the safety data sheets, the only thing is you're not supposed to get it in your eyes, which that makes sense since it works with moisture and we have water in our eyeballs. So yeah, other than that, it said that it's harmless to plants, fish. If it runs off and it goes into sewers, it won't harm anything. So. Again, I'll try it over at the lot because I didn't want it to discolor anything or, get on vehicles or whatever. I just wanted to try it in an area that we don't typically drive on and see what it does.
And on the grading, would we lose any parking spots?
I think just one. What I would want to do is take some more accurate measurements. I just think once we move over, you're going to have one of those stalls that lines up along Manchester Road that it would be too tight. And if we lost one, I don't think that would be the end of the world. Most people use the other side, but during Parks events, I know that they will see both lots full.
Question?
And we are monitoring, if I remember correctly, previously we discussed monitoring this lot very closely to see if it really, if we're going to need it longer term or if the initial demand has faded away, right? And that's why we're not doing more permanent
Yeah,
solutions.
Yeah, as we talked, I think it was November, we're averaging, or we saw 1,400 cars in that north lot last year. I think it was like November of '24 through October of '25, there's 1,400 cars that parked in that north lot. We'll continue to monitor that. We can then kind of see trend year over year, see if it's increasing, decreasing, and we'll be able to kind of give you guys updates as we move through the season.
And then we can kind of assess if it's a permanent lot, then we need to treat it. We move away from gravel and we go for concrete or asphalt.
The hope is that we will have a permanent lot in the redevelopment at one day.
Yeah, and then this would be freed up as green space or development or whatever.
Correct.
Well, I'd entertain a recommendation that the north side parking lot at 8615 Manchester Road have staff install a drainage ditch as well as apply dust control product.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, let's just do voice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Dan. And then Eric, this is coming up soon for a renewal on these temporary lots.
Yes, so we'll be bringing that to the next board meeting. We'd like to, at that time, just do another 6 months, just so we can kind of see how the season goes and keep them both in line, the north and south lot together, so it's a little bit easier, not doing two different lots at two different times.
Thank you. Moving on to, I think that was it on new business, old business. I'm sorry, old business, and moving on to new business. I think, Dan, you're back up with some traffic and transportation engineering.
Yes, it's been quite a number of years. In fact, I've been here 9 and we've never done an RFQ for, transportation and traffic engineering. So we wanted to see what the qualifications were of folks in the area. We posted that, it was in the county and then of course we sent it to consultants that we've done work with. We did receive 4 submittals from these 4 that are listed here. Staff evaluated those, and the evaluation results are in your packet. So looking at the results, CBB was the highest as far as overall points. HR Green was behind them, and then TWM and Horner and Schifrin were pretty much tied. So they would be, third and fourth. So when you look at some of the highlights, like CBB's focus and their strong suit would be preparation of the traffic impact studies. So they've done quite a few. I've listed, or actually just rolled it up. It's like they've done work in the city of Brentwood for 18 years. They've done over 80 task orders. If you recall, they've done all sorts of work either for the promenade in different areas in Brentwood as well as other cities. HR Green has done some limited traffic impact studies. They did one with Wildwood, to a lesser extent, city of O'Fallon, Missouri, and city of St. Louis. Horner and Schifrin and TWM didn't show much in way of the traffic impact studies, but they've done a lot of different transportation-related projects. If you recall, Horner and Schifrin was the one that designed the Litzinger Road improvements, from McKnight going east. They also did the SDP on Rosalie. We've submitted applications with them for high school. That one didn't get approved, but TWM, of course, did the work on Manchester Road. They've also done the rubberway trail for us between Bridgeport and White. They've done some surveying work for the Parks Department as well as for Public Works. So in a nutshell, what we were looking at is if you're wanting to do just traffic impact studies, I would recommend that we keep with CBB. And then if you're wanting to do other transportation-related projects, you would use one of those other 3. We could prepare an on-call agreement, and then if you were trying to prepare an STP application or something, you could pick one of those 3. If it's another, coffee shop or fast food restaurant, you would have the traffic impact study that would go through planning, and you would use CBB. That's my recommendation.
Whitney, you want to chime in on any of this? I mean, what's your feeling on recommendation? You work pretty closely with these.
So Dan and I have discussed this. CBB is the area most people use for traffic impact studies. The other applicants did not have the experience or did not outlay that in their response very as well. We do recommend going with CBB. I don't want me to say.
No, I don't know if in your past experience you've worked with some of these other companies, or if,
So it was set up differently when I was with Creve Coeur in that largely the applicants would hire typically CBB to do the traffic study. The city of Creve Coeur then had HR Green who just reviewed it and said that, yes, they met with the standards for the traffic study or not. Here, we do that differently in that we hire CBB to do the traffic study on behalf of the city. So the HR Green's review of traffic impact was much more limited for the city that I have experience with them on. So I couldn't really say if they could do these traffic impact studies or parking studies that have been outlined by CBB.
and then as far as when a new business or whatever comes in and they're required to do, they're the ones that actually pay for the traffic study with a deposit.
We enter into a memorandum of, when they submit a conditional use permit application, we provide the information to CBB. They give us a cost estimate. We submit an MOU, memorandum of understanding, to the applicant to pay for that cost estimate. And then we pay CBB out of that escrow. And if costs go higher, then the applicant is to cover that cost too.
So I have a question regarding the second suggestion that you make, Dan, in the memo. Or I guess with either one. So if we had CBB and HR Green to do traffic studies, does the staff just decide, like, okay, this time we're going to use CBB and this time we're going to use HR Green? How does that work? And then I thought we were looking for traffic studies, but it seems like maybe it makes sense to also have an on-call agreement for infrastructure design services. So maybe it makes sense to have that, but that wasn't what we asked for. So it was the responses weren't necessarily addressing their expertise there. So are we now locking ourselves up with 3 companies when we were asking for traffic? So
Yeah, we did, right now, I know we wanted to have more than one, just because if a company gets absorbed by someone else or they have turnover within, you may not want to stick with one, but
Right.
as far as CBB, they have that niche where that's what they do.
right.
That's why I was saying for traffic impact studies, I would leave it with them. We already have an agreement. Unless we need to refresh the terms, I would probably just leave it. But the second part was that these other 3 all have good things that they bring to the table. We could use them for, if you're widening a street, adding a sidewalk, if you wanted to do consideration of, changes to an intersection or something like that, or adding ADA trails.
So then how
It would
would,
be one contract, but you would have multiple people you could pick from.
so we wouldn't do like if we were going to do like the Rosalie project again, we would just decide we would pick one of these companies and we wouldn't do an RFQ or I guess that would be an RFP at that point. Is that?
Yeah, you would
is
give
that,
them the scope, they would give you a cost proposal.
So would we send it to all 3 of these on-call people, or would we just decide, oh yeah, this time we're going to use Horner and Schifrin?
I wouldn't send it to all 3. Has the capability, because they may not all have the ability at that point in time either. They could be tied up on a larger project. I know most of them will say, well, yeah, I can do it, but can they really?
Well, I guess I'm just thinking about the taxpayer dollar and how we're going to make sure that we are adequately picking, like if we have 3 on-call companies, how is this, I mean, they're on call, like, if we pick one on call, then that seems like what we do, but I don't remember another time when we have multiple companies, and maybe that's what we should be doing, but I just want to understand how that makes sense and why we shouldn't do an RFP every time we do a project.
What I can tell you is that there's been multiple times throughout the city where we have multiple on-calls for different things. Engineering services is one of them.
Okay.
It is Horner Schifrin we use a lot, and others that right now I can't even remember. When we did our last on-call for landscape design, or landscape review, we had PDS, and we also had, I'm blanking, the company that did our pavilion. And they, not Schaefer.
No, SWG here.
No.
Andy was there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So whoever it was that did design of the pavilion, they actually had a landscape arm too, who was part of their on-call. Well, that landscape arm was dissolved, so they don't have that anymore. And so what allows staff is basically the ability to talk to people quickly and get work done quicker. And a lot of times it is, you basically reach out to the companies like, hey, I have this coming up. Is this something you're able to do in a time frame? Because a lot of times it's something that needs to get done quickly. And you have that ability to talk to one, two, or all three. I mean, we could say, hey, we reached out to all three. They're all on call. Hey, what do you guys have? What's your scope? What's your timing? And then we can bring that back and say, hey, based on what we heard from all three, we're going to choose A because they can do it for this cost and they can do it at this time frame. And so those are the things that we have a little bit more flexibility on and ability to move a little bit faster.
Okay.
Yep, but we would always be approving the cost here.
Yes, yeah. Anytime there's a task order, that will come back here for approval.
Great.
Okay, did you have?
I did, thank you. So for CBB, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, there was a concern from another older person who was concerned about some performance issues or accuracy of projections. And after reviewing the RFQ, they're still the best qualified to do?
Yes, I mean, yes, after reviewing all of the submittals, that's why we put CBB at the top, was they submitted the most qualified answer to the traffic impact. Now, he did review the recording of the meeting where the questions were arised, and so we have discussed that. And maybe the option is, if we wanted to do two, we can have CB do it, and if there's additional questions, we can have HR review. It depends on what those situations may arise. For the most part, what was not done for the coffee shop or the drive-through was a full analysis of the intersection at South Brentwood and Manchester. Simply because most coffee shops capture the existing traffic. So therefore, when we've talked about futures, like we could say, well, we need to start capturing the traffic. The biggest issue is we have to review projects when they are submitted. So if there's a question of when, well, school's not in session and or something like that, that becomes difficult if a project's is submitted in June. We have 90 days to have P&Z review it and make a recommendation. So the issue can be timing, so we can try to work as best we can through that. Yeah.
What I would add to, and Dan and Whitney can kind of chime in too, is when we looked at the four, as far as the traffic impact studies, CBB had the most experience of anyone. In fact, Horton Schiffer and TWM really didn't have a whole lot of experience in that sector of the RFP. HR Green has done some. They haven't seemed to do the examples they gave us for more broader range of, hey, here's a highway. What if we redevelop? It wasn't, here's a big business right on a major intersection. We didn't see that sort of same experience. Now, if we want to have that flexibility, we could have those two, both of them, and then we can kind of work back and forth with both of them, and You know, if it really turns out that CBB is the strongest and HR Green is maybe not as strong, then we can work with HR Green to become stronger, or we continue to work with CBB a little bit more. If you want to have the flexibility, you could always add that second one in there.
So your recommendation is either 1 or 2? What you're asking for?
Mine was originally, if you did the traffic impact study, it would solely be CBB, and then anything else was the other 3.
Okay, I'm looking at, unless you guys have something. You've got CBB, and the first, you've got, number 1, you've got select CBB and HR Green to provide traffic impact studies.
Yeah, I was trying to separate them, but I think that somehow I guess what's in your packet is different, but it's basically the way Eric described it. If you wanted to, you could pull 2 of them together and then another 2 to still do the traffic.
I'm completely confused. I don't know about you two. I don't know what it is.
The traffic impact study is always going to be CBB, and to Eric's point, you can either keep it as 1, or you could try to use HR Green, but HR Green does not have the level of experience that CBB does.
There's,
Yeah, why?
So are you trying to say in the first one that CBB would do the traffic and HR Green would do the transportation and engineering services? Is that what you were trying to do with number 1? Because that's not,
I don't know what theirs is versus mine. It's like I've got.
your mic.
Sorry, Dan, the memo that's attached in board docs does say CBB and HR Green to provide.
And that's different than mine, because I have written select CBB to provide all traffic impact studies on an as-needed basis through task orders. Then select HR Green, Horner Schifrin, and TWM for transportation engineering and infrastructure design.
The recommendation in diligent is Dan's recommendation. What's in the memo, unfortunately, is incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get out of the memo and look at the part on the right.
questions. If
Go
we
ahead.
go with
Well.
CBB only, do we get a discount? For an exclusive contract? Because if there's no benefit for an exclusive contract, I'd lean more to having a second option, especially as we think about if anything's going to happen on Manchester or any major projects, it might be good to have options. But if we get a nice discount for having a preferred vendor, then
Unfortunately, because these are, because this was an RFQ, we're basically asking for qualifications. And once we decide who we want to work with, then we'll work with them on the actual contract portion of it. And unfortunately, that's not something that's discussed at this time, and not something I don't think is something we can discuss with them.
Well, and the applicants are the ones who pay for traffic studies, so it would.
Okay, so, yeah, so now I see it here. You've just got CBB in number 1, and then the others would be a selection.
one in the,
Ready for a motion? Do you have a thought on, I mean, I can make a motion, but I guess either we wait to
Yeah.
see if it gets seconded.
I mean, I'm glad we're going out instead of just, sometimes you get stuck into using the same vendors and everything going on. Everybody becomes friends, and it's good to shake things up a little bit every once in a while. But personally, I've never had a problem with what I've seen from CBB. Whitney's pretty much on board with CBB. I'm just wondering if we just need, in that number 1, I almost want to go back to the error and have HR Green as possibly a backup, or if for some reason there's a problem with what we're seeing from CBB and we want a second opinion, then you got somebody to fall back to.
also like that idea, also if like CBB has a lot of turnover or we start seeing more projects, I wouldn't mind having a second contract in place just to, CBB is our primary, use CBB as the primary, but have a backup on-call option in case they get too busy on other projects or have turnover and we no longer like their expertise level. I mean, this is a 3, possibly 5-year contracts, so a lot can change in 5 years.
Well, and I'm thinking also if things get real busy down on Manchester Road, I mean, I think you would want a consistent traffic, somebody you're using consistently that knows the whole span of the project. But, you know, if we have questions, you know, you always got somebody else to bounce things off of. So I guess I'd entertain a motion. Well, let me ask you this. Is this then going to the full board from here?
Yes, if this gets approved tonight, what we would do is we go back and we'd actually work out the contracts with each of the companies, and then that would be part of what we bring to the full board.
Time of the essence that we can't see that at the next meeting? If we give you some direction here?
And come back with the contracts first? Yeah, we could do that. I don't believe there's a time issue. I mean, we do have CBB under contract already.
And they gave us sample contracts. They're not in your packet, but they did send them to us with the submittal. So it may take a while, but we can bring this to one of the board meetings. I just know that if we're doing a contract with CBB, which we already have one, we probably don't really need a new one. You would do one with HR Green that would be for the traffic impact studies. That would be something new. And then the other two would be an on-call for transportation-related projects.
Fine to me. I mean, I guess what I heard tonight was CBB does the lion's share of the traffic, and HR Green doesn't do as much of the actual count coming in and out. And the fact that we have gone and done this RFP, or is this a Q, RFQ, after we've had CBB for so long, and we came back and we're like, oh yeah, we were using the right people. It's like that makes me feel a lot more comfortable. So I'm really glad that we've gone through that exercise. So if we want to have two, that's fine. But if CBB is the one who's really able to do what we need, then I mean, I guess it's good to have HR Green as the second. But if CBB is the one who is going to do it, then
Well, then, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just to make sure I understand, is it an exclusive contract with CBB if we do it this way, or it's still an open contract? Like, we have them under contract, they're our default provider, but if Manchester really takes off and we needed more studies, we're not locked in exclusively to CBB at that point. We could go out, say something came up on Eager Road or North Brentwood Boulevard.
Correct. I mean, the idea of having them on call is the fact that we wouldn't have to go out for an RFP or RFQ process, which will take months, be the time you advertise to get it in and do this. But it doesn't preclude the city from saying, hey, for this project, I want us to go look at someone else as well. It is easier to have them on call just because it just streamlines the process a little bit. But doesn't mean that if for whatever you're saying, hey, CBB is the company that does all these studies, which it does appear, doesn't mean that in the future, if we get something like another situation, what just happened with the drive-through, say, hey, why don't we reach out to another company, have them give us a task order for them to look at it. What that would do would just, for Whitney, would delay that process a couple months.
And I will retract what I'm glad I asked the question, and it seems like having two makes sense.
All right, so putting together this recommend. How about if we just give direction? Well,
I mean, it sounded like, Alderman Lockmill, I'll try this for you, is that you'd like giving staff direction to talk to the companies to get their contracts and bring back the full everything next month with the recommendation and the proposed contract so we can look at all of it together.
yeah, because I see the brochures and whatever this information is here, and I'm no expert when it comes to transportation, but I'd kind of like to see, if we're going to forward this onto the full board, I would like to have that material in front of me. Instead of the night, somebody comes up with a question and we're just now seeing the contracts and that type of thing. So I would say if we're all in favor of this, just giving staff direction. Let me bring that back up again. I can go back to the wrong thing. based on the recommendation where, number one, CBB is the go-to, and H&R Green would be a backup, and then number two would be what Dan has laid out there.
Are you suggesting that we have both traffic and transportation engineering and infrastructure, like two different sort of on-call
Yeah, because I'm thinking,
tasks?
I'm thinking, number one is more of a Whitney in her department. Number two seems to be whenever we have any infrastructure needs, is Dan and TWM and Horner and Schifrin. That's when they seem to come into play. So I guess that's how I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around having these people all on call. Is they've got different specialties, and we've got different needs for different companies at different times. So, did I answer your question? Because I've just lost my.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, yeah. So basically, we're suggesting that we go with option 2, but then we also have HR Green as an on-call for traffic.
Exactly, and we're, even this RFQ, we're usually look at an RFQ and pick one. We're going for a selection and giving certain ones priorities.
But I think we're looking, hopefully not speaking out of turn here on this, but I think we're thinking there's going to be a lot of projects that will impact traffic in the next 3 to 5 years.
Let's
and
hope.
So we are hopeful that there are a lot of projects in the next 3 to 5 years. So we anticipate needing a large amount of services, which would justify having multiple players in the game instead of just standard minimum development. So
I guess I'm asking staff, are you clear on where we're trying to go with this for our next meeting?
I believe so. For the traffic impact studies, you want CBB as your prime, HR Green as a secondary, a backup, so you can choose one of those two for traffic impact studies. For all other things, say you're building a roundabout or you're doing traffic signals or whatever, sidewalks, then it would be TWM, Horner and Schifrin, and then I believe you said HR Green for that one as well?
No, just for, it doesn't sound like, I didn't think HR Green really had the expertise for that type of thing.
Yeah, they've done some, but I thought, well, did you want to just include two? That way we can select from either TWM or Horner and Schifrin. They've done work, on our different projects. Whether it's an STP or
Not
whatever.
HR Green, though.
Not HR Green. I have never used them, but
Yeah, that's, okay, then, yeah, it would be Horner and Schifrin and TWM.
okay.
We know what we're doing?
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Move on to citizen comment. Anybody online? Nobody's here. Okay. And if there's no any other business, we'll adjourn. Thanks, guys.
thank you.